are back once again with somebody I just met, and I'm so excited to make sure you all know about her. We're here with Erin Hyland, and she actually wears a ton of hats. So we're going to go through all of those things. And one of the first ones is your chair of the Commission Parks. Say it for me one more time.
Parks and Community Events Commission.
Parks and Community Events Commission for Cathedral City.
Yes.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about what that means.
Well, the city has a bunch of different commissions that help inform the decisions of the city council.
Okay.
And so we are out there to connect with citizens, get their input, and do the programming, a lot of the events for the city, and work on all of the parks, as well as help plan for the future.
Perfect.
So I joined that commission in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on the
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's a really long time.
Yes, so it's been 3-year terms, and we had 0 dog parks, and now we have one currently open and running, and the second being built and opening this fall.
Awesome. And you just named a very special project too. Tell us a little bit about that.
We did. We've been working for years and years to get grant money for a park in a traditionally underserved area called formerly the Dream Homes area in Cathedral City.
Okay.
And we are building this beautiful park that links up with CV Link, going to be family friendly, football, soccer courts, as well as dog parks, and that is called Esperanza Hope. Hope is Esperanza in Spanish.
Awesome.
So, wait, I screwed that up.
You did it just right.
Esperanza means hope in Spanish, and that's why we named the park that, because hope lives there.
Yeah.
And we want it to be a hopeful place where people feel wonderful and inspired to bring their family and spend time outdoors.
Yeah, it's very true. I speak for myself, but I know other people feel this way. Having a place outside where you can go and be in nature is such a healing thing. It gives you energy, and I think it's so important, especially, you're right, in those underserved areas. They don't have that park where they can go safely play soccer or whatever.
Kids are like this, constantly with screens, constantly, in front of video games or whatnot, and so to get a chance to actually go outside and be active and play
in a safe place.
Yes, and lots of shade, so there's plenty of shade, so you can do it year round.
You have to do that. That's amazing. And you said dog park a couple of times, so I know that you also are very heavily involved in adoption. So tell us a little about that and your passion around that.
Yeah, so I have always been an animal lover, grew up here in the desert, and we always raised guide dogs for Guide Dogs of the Desert.
Oh, wow.
So my entire childhood, we had a house full of puppies and dogs that we were training to move on to their new homes. So fostering comes by a little more easily for me when I know you have to give them up, but I know it's for greater good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And during the pandemic, all my volunteering options closed. I've always been passionate about volunteering, and so the shelter still needed people to walk dogs. They still needed people 2 times a day, and you could do it safely.
Right.
You weren't, breathing on anyone. Still good for mental health, getting outside, and I just fell in love with volunteering at the shelter, and then that's when I started learning about the crisis. And so all the animals were adopted out during COVID. A bunch of people did not spay or neuter their animals. Now they are 400% over capacity, and we have the highest kill rate in the nation here in Riverside County with the animals. So I foster, sometimes 1, sometimes 2 at a time. I like to bring them to all my city activities, and that's how I get a lot of them adopted, is just bringing them out in the community and training them with my dogs, cats, going to work, all the things, and so that they're ready for their perfect home.
And they can go to that home and adjust really well because they've had the training that because that's essentially what it is, right?
Making them
you're
ready.
Socializing them. You have your fantastic dogs that help them learn how to do things, right?
They do all the potty training.
Which
my dogs teach
love
them the routine.
That. That's amazing. So you definitely, that's such a contribution to that community, because I know that all of these animals are being killed so regularly.
And there's so many things we could do to change that,
yes,
right?
Like tell us a little bit about that.
Something as simple as going to your HOA meetings and asking them to change breed restrictions or size restrictions. My 70-pound German Shepherd Husky rescue is the best behaved girl you have ever met. And I assure you, she'd maybe a much better neighbor than a 5-pound Chihuahua that barks all day. Yeah. No offense, Chihuahuas, but breed restrictions are antiquated.
Yes.
I know some even homeowners insurance policies won't cover if you have a Chow or a Doberman. And these are brilliant, beautiful animals. And if we change HOA policies, CCNRs, if we change community requirements and say you can't have more than 2 dogs.
Right.
I mean, I don't see any requirements that you can't have more than 2 children in a home. Like, some of us, our pets are our kids.
Right. It's very
so
true.
Things like that are very easy tweaks, and that would help relieve a lot of the shelter crisis.
And we actually just had an experience with a lovely lady. We helped find a home, and she had a wonderful American Bulldog that she had for many years, and she loved her very much. And unfortunately, they would not allow her to bring that dog. And she had to make the very hard decision. Gratefully, like her daughter can take the dog, gratefully there's a solution there.
Yes.
But that,
to be asked to get rid of a family member to choose housing versus your family, I mean.
And when the housing is something that you can't say no to, that's just such a difficult decision. So that's a great idea. And I love that you said that. What about getting your dog fixed?
Huge. We are trying to do that. That's what we're actively working on for my commission now, and with the other cities, my friends and La Quinta City Councilman Steve Sanchez and Palm Desert Mayor Karen and Quintanilla are personal friends of mine. And so we're working in tandem to try to get all the cities to do low cost or free spay or neuter clinics. I think there are a lot of people that want to be good pet owners genuinely, but if they're choosing between buying their daughter's cheer uniform versus spaying or neutering their dog, or we need groceries this weekend to pay our exorbitant Edison electric bill that triples in the summer versus spaying their dog. So making it accessible and affordable to all of our residents.
Exactly.
And yes, spay and neuter huge. The majority of animals that come through the shelter doors are unaltered.
Yeah.
So they're just, it's not a dog problem, it's a human problem.
It is. And it's so true, because the reality is it's an affordability problem. It's not that they don't want to, you can really only do so much when you have a dog that's not fixed and it's in heat. Their whole demeanor is different, right? So they want to go do a little something,
right?
So making that accessible is really, really important. So that's awesome. So circling back around to your role in Cathedral City, how did you find yourself interested in getting involved in that, and what kind of drove that?
Well, I've always been involved in some sort of leadership capacity, civic engagement. My parents were always taking me to City Hall as a kid and getting involved in those things. So that just always seems natural to me. Like, voting was like my favorite thing to do with my parents every year. So so excited when I turned 18 and I could do such things.
Right.
But with the civic engagement, I looked at all the commissions, and no offense to our community, but we do have a largely retired demographic, and those are people who have the time and the energy 100%. And the resources a lot of the time, right? And my generation and younger doesn't really see themselves in those roles because they don't see someone that looks like them in those roles. And so I wanted to be a female presence. I wanted to be someone in the workforce. I wanted to be someone in the community that grew up here in the desert,
right,
and have a unique perspective on the city. And so I applied and they accepted me. And it's been such a great learning experience working hand in hand with City Council and making our recommendations to them. And just learning, like, the timeline. Government moves slow like molasses because there's so many safeguards in place. But you have to request something to be on the agenda, and then it takes a month to do that, and then you vote on an item that has to go to City Council to get monetary approval, and before you know it, it's almost a year before you make it happen. But we've done some really awesome projects. But I'm excited to tie my new work role into my commission, and we do free summer movies for kids at the city for the city of Cathedral City at the Mary Pickford Theater. They're wonderful to work with. So the kids can come on Fridays with any of their caregivers, any siblings. There's no limit to how big your family size is. We want everybody included. And then now we're going to give them a book to take home. So yes, they will be on a screen for a few hours to cool off, but we want them to learn at home. And then the Cathedral City librarians will come in and read to them instead of previews. So we're going to bookend the movie with some literacy options and taking away any kind of financial barriers. Some of these kids tell us it's their first time in the movies. Sometimes the water and popcorn they get that day is all they had for a snack. Right. So I love integrating different areas. And so I thought amazing. Parks and community events best suited
what you love, right?
Yes.
And you did mention you have a new role. So another thing that you volunteer for and are passionate about. And I saw this and I thought, I've always been a reader my whole life. If I could just sit around and read all day, I would. But that's not, maybe kids don't have books. There's all kinds of things around that. So talk a little bit about that project too.
So my new role is recruitment for volunteers for the program called Read With Me. It's been in the desert since 2001. So it's a well-established nonprofit. And we're in 22 elementary schools across all 3 school districts here, traditionally in underserved areas. And it's phenomenal program, over 600 volunteers, and all we ask is 1 hour a week. And so you get to pick the time, Monday through Friday, whichever day works with you. And it's so much more than volunteering, it's mentoring.
100%.
These kids look forward to one-on-one time, and they've shared with me and a lot of our volunteers things like, this is the first time ever someone sat down and read with me by myself. You have teachers that have classrooms of 30 to 40 kids. They are doing their best. But traditionally those that are further behind keep falling further behind. Some of the kids tell us their parents work shift work, and so they are responsible in third grade for making dinner for all their siblings, helping them with their homework. And so 1 hour a week helping them instill the love of reading. A lot of them, it's their second language, so they need a little extra help. Gaining that confidence, they'll tell me, Miss Erin, I went home and I read to all my brothers and sisters, or I took this book home, or I helped my mom translate something for a new job application. And just the pride and the trickle down effect, what they're bringing back to their homes.
Yeah.
And then we also give them books to take home, so they have things of their own, and we do enrichment activities with them, and it's phenomenal. We are having challenges probably getting volunteers in the further out areas. It's easier to get people to volunteer, right down the street, but the biggest needs are in Thermal, Salton City, Mecca, Desert Hot Springs. We really want the volunteers that are willing to invest in the kids that need them.
Yeah. So reading is such an important part of language and learning language and being able to speak properly. And, when it is a second language, either, I'm the child of deaf parents. So, sign language was in my house, but for various reasons, the language was sort of lost, like with my dad a little bit. So he walks this kind of a gray line of not knowing either language properly. And I think with these kids, when they have parents who speak Spanish or whatever at home, there's a risk of them not learning the language properly. And such a gift that they can take that back to their parents.
Yes.
So many things about this. So number one, and probably right now the most important, is how does somebody get involved with that?
It's easy. They go to our website, readwithmevolunteers.org, and click volunteer, and you'll get a phone call. You fill out the application, and we'll get you settled. We work with your schedule. If you can only do Mondays, we let you know which schools need teachers. We let you know where the need is. And it's so impactful. It's not just impactful for the child, though, for the person volunteering.
100,000%.
I find a lot of people, like my mom, just retired, and they're kind of, like she was a career woman, and now she's a little, not aimless, but looking for something more. And just an hour a week with that child, when you're the highlight of their day, you're making a difference, and seeing them light up when you walk in that room, I think it's really really good for mental health, even for the volunteers. And especially as we have an aging population, we know that connection and purpose are things that keep them buoyed.
Keep them young, right? And I think, there's so many ways to give in our valley, which is such a unique thing.
Yes.
People want to give and they just don't know where to go or how to do it or what speaks to them. And sometimes people think, well, I can't donate any money this week.
Right. That's
but
absolutely free.
Your time, an hour, it's so small. So how do children get involved in the program? Like, is it their teachers?
Their teachers sign up. We currently have 200 more teachers than we have volunteers for.
Oh, wow.
So we need at least 200 more volunteers. Okay. All of their test scores go up, their engagement.
Everything about it.
Yes. Everything is just a plus and knocks it out of the park. So we'd love to have as many teachers as possible with that support in the classroom.
Yeah. And you said the word mentor, and that's probably not the role that people imagine when they're doing this, but it's such an important role, and an additional adult in a young child's life is huge. A mentor for the Ophelia program.
Yes. They're wonderful.
Wonderful program. But like you said, we as mentors get so much out of it. Yes. I feel like it's not one or the other. Everybody that's in that room interacting with each other on this different level walks away a better person, a stronger person, a more empathetic person every single time. So it's like, you might be retired, you might need something in your life, or maybe you're not retired and you just need something in your life. Giving back that way.
And maybe you only have an hour a week. You might be super busy in whatever season of life you're in, whether you're building your business or your family or whatever it may be, or you might be seasonal. Like we still have room for those volunteers.
Right.
We just ask an 8-week commitment. You don't even have to do the whole school year. So that's
amazing.
But 99% of the time
they keep doing
sign up for more. Yes. And sometimes they come to us and say, I can do 2 days a week. What if I go 2 days a week? And then you build these relationships with these teachers. Yeah. And I'm just in awe of the teachers and staff every day, how they navigate all these changes and how they have students with such diverse needs in one classroom.
Right. Oh, right. Absolutely. And like you said, it's not intentional, but the kids that struggle the most take the most time.
Yep.
So that's the group that's sort of not touched on the way it needs to be. And I think reading, even if kids hate it, they're getting so much out of it right? And it really helps them in all the other subjects that they have.
It does. And we don't do just reading activities. We do sight words. We do games where they like spin a wheel and we put sentences together based on what they picked. And we do stuff about animals. Or one of the little guys that I got to read with was very interested in machines and machinery, which is not necessarily my strong suit. But I was inspired to learn more and found a book that had a model in the back that he could build. And it talked about the space station and the Mars rover. And I learned immense facts about that. And then he took it home and helped build it with his 3 brothers and explained to me that every night now he reads a page in that book to them and is just teaching them. And I just thought, like, he's enjoying this so much, he wants to do it. It's not a have to, it's a get to. Right. And that's how I feel about it as well. Yeah. I get to do this.
And what is the age range that you're
kindergarten? To volunteer, or the kids?
The kids.
The kids, kindergarten through 6th. Okay. In Coachella Valley Unified, kindergarten through 5th, and the other 2. So all of elementary. Okay. And people can pick their preference, or they can say, go where I'm most needed.
Right. Yep. Okay, very cool. So I want to make sure people know how to do the movie thing. That's an
free
amazing.
Summer movies for kids are 8
When
weeks.
does it start? How does it
starts
work?
First week in June. So school is out that first week, and then that Friday they start. Okay. Yeah. So they just go to the Cathedral City Mary Pickford Theater.
Amazing.
And the cool thing about the Pickford Theater, I just learned at the State of the City, we're going to be one of 30 places in the nation that has this new ScreenX technology. Okay. And so it's like a surround sound 3 screen system. Oh wow. Coming out for.
So you're like sitting there and it's like this.
Yes. It's wild, and I'm so excited that we get that here in the desert. That's not something we usually get, the exciting new stuff. But Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool is coming out this summer, and I definitely need more of him. I mean, as many screens as possible, as many angles as possible. So I'm excited about that.
And also, taking it back to making an impact on your community, right? Like you were talking about voting and stuff, and I know that for so many people, it's like I can't really there's nothing I could do. My vote doesn't count. I'm not going to be able to make a change. But what I've recently learned is you actually can by participating in things like what you're doing, right? And so you're also part of this Coachella Valley Leadership Academy.
Yes.
Okay. So, and would you say that's a really good way for people to kind of learn how to be involved in that and see where they want to go? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, 10X. So the program is called Leadership Coachella Valley. Okay. And it is run through the Palm Springs Chamber of Commerce. And topics we have, it's 10 sessions. And so it's similar to like a college curriculum course. And it's one Friday a month. And we have topics from economic drivers to sustainability and environmentalism to housing opportunities and shortages to let's see what's coming. Arts and culture is coming up next month, and you have all of the furthermost leaders and innovators and change makers in the desert all come in that day to speak. We do tours, and you get to. We had all 9 mayors sitting that you could ask questions about civic leadership and them talking about how they got engaged. You have the water district coming in and talking about conservation, and you can ask questions about projects. Like, wait a minute, I heard this project's having a giant lagoon, and they explain, the water rights were given 30 years ago, and this is how it works. Just all these really fascinating things. And as someone who grew up here, I thought, I'm pretty dialed in, I think I'm a somewhat intelligent person. I'm a very voracious reader, right? Like I know a lot about this desert, and then I go through this program and my mind was just blown with not just what I learned about the desert, like touring the wind turbines and that kind of thing, but also the connections I made. There was a really amazing news anchor in my class who I can text and say, I think this is newsworthy. There were people in my classes and in all sorts of capacities, like, oh, this one's a banker and their bank, does all these nonprofit grants, and we connected over that on how to help them give back. Just so many connections made in those classes. And when we do like our alumni events, it's like the who's who of the desert in that. So I highly encourage people to apply.
And how do they do that?
At leadershipcoachellavalley.org, leadershipcv.org, I believe, actually. And you can find it on our Instagram as well. There's a link. And our graduation's coming up, which is public if people want to go and see what it's about. And it's interview process. You answer some questions. You sit down with some of our board members and we interview, and then we pick a small class of 40 so that you can bond. There are scholarships available. If cost is an issue, we always want to make sure it is available to all leaders. We have everyone from COD students in leadership academies coming in all the way up to retired people looking to redirect or reinvent themselves.
Interesting.
So it's pretty phenomenal. Yeah. So there was just an article in the paper this week, the Desert Sun article about their standout, Derek Tilley, who's going to Berkeley from COD, and he's in our current leadership class. And he's just phenomenal human. On top of going to all of his classes and excelling in all these things, he's also donated 500 hours at Fine Food Bank.
Wow.
So just meeting people like that.
Sure. And all of those people are making an impact in their own way.
Yes.
And
or learning, trying to figure out where to
go,
impact, where
exactly.
they fit. You're supposed to have lived here at least 2 years so that you're a little bit integrated in the community, and then you get to know the community. And I've been on the board the last 2 years, and I decided to do that even though I felt like maybe I might be getting a little overcommitted, right? I had to really, really look at things. And it just made such a big impact. I felt like that was where I needed to be. And it's the best board I've ever been on, this dynamic board of leaders. And I will actually be the president next year. So I'm the incoming president.
Congratulations to that.
Thank you. I am so excited / nervous.
Yeah.
Because to be at the helm of such a great group,
absolutely.
No pressure.
Absolutely.
But just to elevate it every year.
Right.
Like you meet in all 9 cities. So we've even had people, we do our session in Coachella, and people, I've never been here. I've never passed Washington, or same with a lot of the people on the east side of the valley. Well, I've never been to Desert Hot Springs before. Right. I've never needed to.
Right.
And so that exposure alone is so great for so many.
And when people participate in something like that, even if they never go any higher into, their cities as far as the government, they find a new value and love in where we live. And when you have that, you become more passionate about conservation or making sure that all the things are going well within this amazing place that we call our home, because it really is amazing. And when you can fall in love with it again and learn new things about it, I think it makes a tighter community, and one that's much more vibrant as well.
Yes, and knowledge is power. Making sure 100%. That whatever facts you're disseminating in whatever industry you're in, that you're telling the truth, that you're in a position to say, actually, I think that might not be correct, but hey, I know someone who can give us the answers if we need to, making sure people have the resources. And you leave with a list of all the speakers and all their contact info.
Wow.
No matter where they are, whether it's the Superior Court judge that comes and talk, the head of Border Patrol, whatever it may be, but your leaders want to enact with you. And a lot of times you just have to bridge that gap. They're like, well, I didn't know how to get a hold of you, and you wanted my opinion, and I needed your authority to help me with this, but there's just that missing connection piece. And so this definitely functions as that.
Yeah, I'm actually involved in the Leadership Academy at the California Desert Association of Realtors.
Awesome.
So very similar idea. It's like a year-long class. And what I found is that there is so much more to know than what you think you already know.
Absolutely.
Right? And just the experience alone, if it never goes anywhere else, is worth the time. I'm really interested in this.
Please.
So I can't wait to apply for that. But I think it's fantastic. And again, I full transparency, sometimes I'm like, I don't want to vote. Nobody is listening to what I say. How am I going to affect any type of change? But that's not true.
No. And even if you're voting, holding your nose, being like, this is like the least of the two.
Yeah.
There's other countries that are suffering immensely right now because they didn't have the right to make a change, or not enough people participated, or not enough people stood up to things. And so even if it's not ideal, you're not marrying the person,
right?
You're not dating them. It's just you're picking which bus you want to get on, which one's going in the direction that you want to go.
Right.
And that's what you're picking. And so I think it's so important to even vote in our local elections on measures, right?
100%.
Because so much of this funding for this park comes from whether people say yes or no on this measure, or whether people say yes or no to expanding education measures and we revamp the schools. Your vote does matter, and especially when you have a really high percentage of people that rent versus own. Like the homeowners, definitely, if like the property taxes are raising, it doesn't really matter what the renters are voting, right? Like you want to make sure that your vote is heard in so many of these things.
Right. It's very true. And you said something before, about representing women, some people that look like you, your age, these types of things. Like there is a place for people from all different walks of life, all ages, whatever. There is a place for you to be on and involved and make changes in your community.
Yes. And like as someone who doesn't have children by choice, being on a commission that plans events for kids and parks, people think like, oh, well, why did you pick that one? It's like, I still want to enjoy my community parks too. They're for everybody in our community. I still value the development of our youth. Just because I didn't make one doesn't mean that I don't want to help elevate ours.
Right.
And so I think it's important for people of all walks of life, all ages, all socioeconomic statuses to be involved, because if you only have one group, it's just the silo, and these same people are making the decisions, and that's when people get frustrated.
Because somebody is making a decision.
Yes.
And
why not it be you? Or why not they at least hear from you?
100%. 100%.
And it's really impactful. If people just want to like start dipping their toe in the water, your city council meetings are free. They're posted by law, so you can find out when they are. You can watch them on Zoom. You can make comments on Zoom if you need to. And if there's something, whether it's an increase on your price and tax, you know, for your trash cans, whatever it may be, if you're passionate about something or you're interested, make a comment. They have to listen to it, and then now it's on public record, so they have to address it. So especially with like the animal crisis, we're really trying to make that known and make sure people are speaking so that the leaders are held accountable for the people that they hire and contract with. Like, maybe we're not doing it the best way we're doing it. Why do we just continue along this path as opposed to shake it up, change leadership, change the service area, change how the contracts work? We have power to do all those things. We the people. So you have to, it takes a little work, but like I guarantee the amount of time you spend scrolling on Instagram or TikTok, you could write a comment to your city council. You could find out when the meeting's happening. Like, there really are pockets of time. And you know, I always say, if you want something done, ask a busy person, because we figure out how to do it. If it means something to us, we will find a way.
Exactly. And really, the level of involvement you choose, it can be smaller and just in your gated community. But you should know that you have an impact there. And then that can grow, state, you know, whatever, right?
Like back to the dogs.
I think it's so important.
Go to your HOA and be like, who decided that Fluffy, you know, who
bit 3 postmen and barks all night long, but it's only 10 pounds, is the right dog. And that's okay.
Versus my dog who's on thyroid medication and now weighs more than your weight limit. Why is that an issue? So true. You know, get those things. Yeah, so you can start very small.
Okay, so before we end, this has been so fantastic. I really appreciate it.
I love it.
I want people once again to hear about how to get in touch with you for the reading, volunteering. Also the Coachella Valley or CV leadership, how to do that. And then anything else that you really want to make sure that people hear about.
Okay. So read with me. We need 200 volunteers. So even if you can't volunteer, just share it. That'd be huge for us.
Exactly. That's all it takes, right?
There's plenty of posts on social media, so you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And we have a YouTube channel as well if you want to see what's happening with some of the kids. Although with privacy issues, you'll see a lot of the back of kids' heads.
Sure.
For those reasons. But and that's readwithmevolunteers.org. And then as far as Leadership Coachella Valley goes, applications are currently open. They close July 1st. So get those in. Even if you're thinking about it, you can retract later if it's not a time fit for you. But we'd love to have those in and interview people. And those interviews go through the summer. And then the new class starts in September. And then as far as other things I'm passionate about, I would say if you can open your heart to foster, every animal you foster saves another animal's life. They take in 30 to 35 a day, and they adopt out 2 to 4. So if you want to do the math on how many need to be euthanized for space,
oh my gosh,
it's a space issue. It's a human issue. It's not an animal issue. Open your heart to fostering. I'm on foster number 48. We have found all of them amazing, loving homes, and I keep in contact with a lot of the people they're with. And it gets easier to give them up, especially when you know that you're just setting them up. You're their launching pad for a life well loved. I encourage people to do that. It is just so rewarding and awesome. So even if you can just foster a mama and kittens for a couple weeks, you are helping us find a rescue and network them. So,
and what shelter are you volunteering at?
I volunteer at the Desert Hot Springs shelter. We actually have 2 shelters. They are no-kill shelters. We need more volunteers there as well. Palm Springs Animal Shelter has 700. We have 20. So we have tons of dogs that love walking, and we have a really cute cat house that even if you are injured or you have mobility issues like I do, you can go sit in the cat house and you can just have them love on you or sit on the catio and play with them. Instant serotonin boost. Like, you cannot leave there sad, especially when the dog's like the highlight of their day is seeing you there. And it's beautiful. It's out by the wind turbines, and it's like hiking. You just get to do it with a new best friend.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it is true. Anytime you can give, whether it's your time or resources, it really is also giving back to yourself.
It is. It's like self-care, right? Like your mental health. I'm not in front of a screen. I'm not consuming other people's thoughts. I'm not, like an email is someone else's to-do list for you, right? Like if I'm out there walking the animals or volunteering with kids or, working with Leadership Coachella Valley, it's phenomenal. And I'm in the work and I'm doing the work, and time flies. You're connecting with others. You're doing what we're meant to be doing. And then you don't want to go home and turn on the news. You want to go home and read a book and learn more about what you just saw today.
That's awesome.
So,
yes. Thank you so much.
It was wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your time, and Until next time.